Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the studio with your girl Trey Lou on Positive Vibes. This is Vision Radio 105.1 FM here in Loganville, Georgia. Hey, Clinton, back to you, buddy. We are talking about passion and also the importance of positive relationships. This should be a winner here. It's it's Thanksgiving. It's around Christmas time, cold times. Let's talk about this. What are the importance of positive relationships?
Okay. Well,
From your perspective.
from my perspective, yes.
Yes.
So, my perspective, from the perspective of personal development and business growth, when I look at relationships, I'm not exactly talking about the intimate kind. I guess intimacy can be defined on different levels, but we're just going to say boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, those type of things. Those are definitely very important.
Mhm.
The perspective that I speak about relationships inside the book and the power of them is just basically in our overall life and our overall business. And what can you really say about having positive people around you?
A lot.
A lot. The mistake that people think is when I say positive, they think that they mean that they are good, or if they're not positive, that they are bad people.
Mhm.
And what I tell people is when I say about a positive people around you, it's not defined from a moral standpoint where they're good. It's if they're good for you, or if they're good for the goals that you want to achieve. If you want to lose 30 pounds, potentially hanging around the 100 Twinkie eaters, it's probably not going to be positive, though they may be
That's not.
great people.
Nice.
It's not going to
But
be
you know what, though?
positive.
Let me tell you something. Even if I wanted to lose, like, whatever pounds,
Mhm.
30 for me right now that wouldn't be good.
Mhm.
But if I did want to lose any pounds, and then I was around the Twinkie eaters,
The 100 Twinkie eaters.
100, well, it doesn't matter. It could
They
be,
eat 100
it could
Twinkies
be-
a day.
It could be 10,000. They could eat 10,000 a day because I have strengths and I'm really strong in keeping myself healthy, and I know what works and what doesn't work for my body. I could probably hang around them and encourage them not to eat Twinkies, but to eat more healthy foods.
And I would say, based on empirical, because a lot of the concept inside my book is based on empirical evidence, what they call, or
Mhm.
evidence gathered through different studies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, people don't understand what willpower and the power of willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, people only have a certain amount of willpower per day. Now, some people might have the 5-gallon tank, while some other people might have the 100-gallon tank. But normally, what your tank is what it is. Unless you have an awareness and you learn how to expand your tank, well, that's a whole other thing, but
Mhm.
most people don't
Right.
know. Just being around people that's exercising your willpower is going to be energy draining to you. So sure, we could potentially hang around the 100 Twinkie eaters per day people, but consistently being in that environment is going to be draining unnecessary energy from us to maintain our status quo that
But-
we could be using towards something else. So what we
True.
will find at the end of the day
True.
is that
But-
for some reason we're more tired than when if we did this same act and there were the 100 people that was also trying to stay in shape, trying to accomplish the same goals that we're trying
I
to
get
accomplish.
it. I get it. But also on the flip side, I hate the flip. Well, yeah, the flip side
I like a flip
is
side
that
sometimes.
you know what? You may be placed in that environment for a specific reason with those 100 Twinkie eaters per day, or the candy bar eaters or whatever. You could be that energy that changes their whole mindset of eating those Twinkies. Now, let me give you an example.
Mhm.
Now, I don't drink. I'm 20 years sober of, drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was invited to a birthday party in a club, in a bar, and I'm like, okay, I prayed about it, and God said, go. I didn't know why, but I went, and I actually was at this bar with about 7 waters in front of me, and I was at a familiar bar, in my old hometown. But let me tell you, the outcome of that was me being in this place where I used to drink,
Mhm.
okay, but it wasn't. I didn't want to drink. So me being in that bar and being in that same, having that personality that I have, one of the people said, "I can't believe you're still the same person that you were when you wasn't drinking. You know, when you was drinking." I said, "I don't need the alcohol. This is just who I was. This is who I always was." You know what? That day, that person stopped drinking.
Okay, now let me poke a little bit of holes
Go ahead. I don't care.
and story.
Go ahead.
I don't want to say poke a little holes. Yes, I do, but I'm going to say.
You
I'll
can,
use
poke them,
another.
you can poke holes and I'll fill them. What's up?
Okay.
Let's make it
So
happen.
this is the thing, though, is that the 20 years of your sobriety, because I have 17 myself, was not in that environment. So you was in a more potentially healthier environment the majority of that time. So when your mission puts you, or your calling puts you in that set of circumstances that affected positive change in someone else, your willpower wasn't drained because you wasn't using it the whole time. You went in there with a certain strength. It wasn't potentially after we've had a bad 2 weeks, things falling apart, and now we're in this same set of circumstances. So this is what I was talking about, continually being around people that don't align with the goals that you want to achieve. I go around people a lot of times that are on different paths, different wavelengths, different mindsets than I might be. But
Right.
for the most part, that's not who I'm around all the time.
Okay. Now that you poked the hole, let me fill it for
All
you
right, let me
now.
see what you
Okay,
got.
so now we're talking about, yes, my 12 plus years of sobriety.
Yeah.
Now, 2 weeks after, my sobriety, I was invited to a event and did the same thing.
Okay, but that was 2 weeks after. What if you had to do this? Not to say that it's not doable, but the whole 12 years, starting from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of with your sobriety, as you constantly had to be around people that were drinking, smoking, doing things that you didn't want to do. And now I'm not talking about people that you could look at and see how negative it is. What if these people were having fun with it?
Oh, and they
it looked
were.
like it was growing?
They were.
But you didn't have to do that the whole 12 every day, day in and day out. Because that would, and not to say there aren't outliers to certain outcomes, but statistically speaking, if you hang around 9 broke friends, you're bound to be the 10th one. So
Thank God I don't hang around.
if you hang around a bunch of miserable people, it's going to be very difficult for you not to be miserable. More in fact, you won't even know how miserable you probably are, but everybody that's not inside that miserable circle will be like, I'm not going around her anymore because she's miserable. So if we likely become the people that we hang around. So when we was talking about positive relationships and what's toxic, one of the skill sets that I help people to be able to do is first identify them.
Right.
Because a lot of the toxic people...
So let's talk about some of the identifiers.
Okay. A lot of the awareness is one. There are usually 2 catalysts for change. Awareness and tragedy. There's some other things, but we'll say the 2 major players. And I'd rather go with awareness, because once we open our eyes, spirits, intuition, whatever word you want to call it, onto a situation, now we're paying it attention. And once we start paying attention to something is when we start creating a likelihood that we can create change about that. If we ignore, then it could be a whole host of things happening outside of our visible sight
Right.
that are affecting us, like our children. We get so habitually used to our children being a certain way that they start learning how to operate within our blind spots. Those are the same thing with some of our habits. So identifying toxic people becomes, you have to have an awareness. And you also have to start to have a understanding of who you are in standards. See, our standards are not something against someone else. Our standards are our barometer to let us know that things are going left or right when we don't want them to go left or
Absolutely.
right.
So let's talk about things that's going on in this world as far as being positive and negative. There's a lot of things that are going on that have a negative impact on families, relationships, business ships, and even friendships, and even school ships, should I say. Let's talk about some of those things and how we can help someone today that's listening to this broadcast to look at some of the negative things in more of a positive light.
Well, one of the things is one of the tools I use for myself to constantly, like I haven't had a bad day in years. It does not mean that things did not go my way on a lot of days within these years, But one of the tools that I use is when something as bad is happening or I think it's bad, I imagine it 10 times worse. And if it's 10 times worse than what it is right now, how much would I be willing to pay
Right.
just to get back to that regular bad?
Right.
And that alters my perspective about the event. And it allows me to be able to move forward.
Amen. Well, you know what I use, there's some things that I've used in my life when I was growing up, especially, being young, going into the corporate world, I didn't know that, some of the things that had happened to me as far as like being on time. Because I played, I'm like, okay, it's a job, whatever. I did what I wanted to do, but then when my boss, I call her, she was very militant. And she was on my back about, being punctual. I didn't like it at the time, but I used it how to flip my life around and how to be more punctual. And to this day, punctuality for me is like it's a key thing for me. A lot of people don't understand it, but it's just because I know that you have to respect people's time.
Yes.
You just have to respect your own time, not just other people's. You know what I mean?
And I think when you respect someone else's value and they can genuinely feel that you respect that, that could be transformative for the relationships that you have with people. We don't always have to have the same exact values about a thing. But if we learn to appreciate each other's values and being able to see the validity in it, even if it differs from ours, that's when we can start to really form strong, dynamic bonds and different relationships. Because one thing about growing inside your business, growing inside your entrepreneurial endeavors, is normally it's your immediate circle won't create change.
Right.
But the people that are in your immediate circle and who they connected to, and if they connect you to their circle, that creates a change. And then they connect you to their circle, that creates an even bigger change in an environment that you're normally not walking in. And that goes back to the value of creating positive relationships. Every time I interact with someone, I try to the best of my ability to treat this with infinite potentialities for possible favorable outcomes. So when that person walks off from me, whether I see them again or don't, I still have a chance of them remembering me and saying something positive to someone else about me. And without fail, man, that has been one of the greatest assets that God has allowed me to be able to realize in my life, and I invest heavily into that.
Amen. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back. I want to talk about being organized in business when we come back next with you, Clinton. We have a song coming up next with Ricky Diller and New G, because, Clinton, you're amazing, and this radio show is amazing.
I love it. We're speaking clear, we're being concise. See, and I got this thing where sometimes when I'm speaking and I'll ramble off real fast.
That's what you feel like.